women, modern high achieving women, if that is you, then you have probably noticed that this way stops working. It just stops working at some point. It becomes less and less effective when you just say, I see my to-do list, I'm going to do my to-do list. I should go to this thing, even though I want to do that thing. I need to be this to my family. I need to be this to my partner. I need to also get the workout in. I'm willing to sacrifice sleep, and I'm willing to sacrifice my soul calling. It stops working at some point. Often we experience a health decline, we experience burnout, we experience emotional dysregulation, we experience anxiety or depression. And these lead us, or we experience the death of a parent, the death of a loved one. There's so many ways we are brought into initiation. But as spiritual, high-achieving women on the path, we hit a point when this way of A plus B equals C, it stops working and our life starts to fall apart. And if you haven't been there yet, then, if you are a spiritual woman on the path, you're probably feeling it come close. You're probably feeling the burnout come close, because you're sensitive and you're in tune and your soul is here for a big mission. Your soul's here for a big purpose. This isn't, you didn't come into this life to fuck around. You didn't come into this life to play into someone else's narrative. Your soul chose this situation, this family, this body, this time on the planet for a very, very specific reason. And that reason is your gifts and your soul work. And if you are not living in alignment with your gifts and your soul work, then you will be experiencing uncomfortable symptoms in your relationships and in your physical body. That is just the reality. If you are going against your intuition, if you are going against your call to serve, if you are, to serve as in to offer your gifts in this world, you will register it on some way. Our soul does not, if you are a high achieving spiritual woman in this time on the planet, you are here because you are a change maker. You are a cycle breaker, because that is what is real at this time on the planet. Like, it is non-optional. We are transcending patterns of our mothers and grandmothers. We are coming into deeper relationship to the truth of our soul, our capacity to speak that truth, to identify our desires and to speak it and to manifest them. And that's just not going to work in the old paradigm of thinking, the old way. It's not going to work in a hyper masculine approach. So as women, the reality is, and I just see it again and again and again and again in the high-performing women I work with. In fact, over my years of coaching women, I have, the most common vocation, the most common job of women that I have worked with is lawyers. I've worked with so many lawyers. It's like so weird. Every year I'm just like, where do these lawyers, what's happening with lawyers? Like, where do these lawyers come from, even though I've worked with all kinds of women in all kinds of fields. But the reality is that as the old systems crumble, as this divine feminine reawakening is occurring on the planet, we are seeing an aggravation of things that aren't working. And we see that in war, we see that in our leaders, and we are also seeing that in our organizations and in our systems that don't make space for the feminine. So this whole divine feminine rising, hyper masculine structures, these might sound like big words. They're very, this is a very real physical embodied experience. This isn't we're not talking conceptual, we're not talking philosophical. This is a lived experience in the bodies of women, that our bodies are literally not designed to operate in a on the sun schedule that the masculine body operates on, which is you show up the same every single day. And we are on a moon clock. We are literally, it's just very real. I can't make this up. Our hormones, which control every element of our being, operate on a moon's schedule. And that means we are 4 different people throughout the month at least. And that means those 4 different people need different things. And there are different superpowers and skills in each part of the cycle of women's bodies, whether or not you bleed still or not. And it is only when, so here's the key, here's the trick. It is only when we come back into relationship with the reality of our actual physical lived experience that aligns to the cyclical nature of the planet, of the stars, of the moon, that we can access a sustainable approach to success, a sustainable approach to receiving the abundance we desire to receive from our income, from our jobs, from our soul work, from our relationships, and ultimately, of course, in the ways that emanates out to serve the world, to blossom into a world that operates not only on the logic of the masculine, but in union and harmony in the masculine and feminine. So that key, there it is. It's the key is coming back into the reality of feminine anatomy, and that feminine anatomy, the feminine hormonal reality, it maps to our feminine energetics. So in order to actually be in harmony and aligned with our true desires, our true power, we need to actually be aligned to our inner world, to our body, to the seasons, of our own life, and to the seasons of Mama Gaia, who is the feminine writ large on this planet, who is this planet. Now that sounds like a tall order, I know. And that's why I have mini courses that guide us into this process. But I can say, as really want to make this practical, really want to ground this for you right now, is to say that if you're still listening, you are an awakening woman on the path. And you're here for a reason. And you came at this time for a very specific reason. And you are imperative and important to the awakening of the planet. And if you are experiencing symptoms like declining health, like not feeling comfortable in your body, like not experiencing regular pleasure, like not being connected to your sexuality, not feeling sexy, not feeling your sex drive, not feeling motivated in your work or your life, feeling like there's a constant sense of a lack of time with your children, a lack of time for yourself, a lack of resources, a lack of money. All of this is a sign that you're on the perfect path. You're an awakening woman, and here you are. Here you are meeting your next level, meeting your next edge. And the first step to meeting that next edge is to, which the next edge is to come back into your feminine, right? Like you are operating in a hyper masculine paradigm in the way you were trained, because that's how we were all trained. And now we are remembering a new way, which is not a new way. It's a very old way. It's the way that has been practiced by our ancestors for 99% of human history. We are remembering the feminine. We are remembering that we need spaciousness, that our intuition is actually the key to unlock our next level of development, our next level relationship, our next level of income. So again, on a really practical level, just to ground this and make this real for you, the question is, how are you tending to your body today? That is the first step. How am I tending to my body today? How am I tending to this temple today? Because this temple is the place where the awakening occurs. It is the temple where the intuition activates. It is the temple where we stand in, we first experience our own power, and then we gain the capacity to flex that power in the world. It is where we meet our demons, which, seem very personal and seem cloaked in the story of your life. But, while they are personal, they are also collective. Like you are the story of your ancestors. You are the prayer of your ancestors. And that prayer is, may she not make the same mistakes I did. So here we are at the time of the divine feminine awakening, and your immediate access point into your feminine power is to ask yourself, how can I tend to my body today? And then to literally make that your first priority. And yeah, sure, if it's like, I can tend to it by getting to a 2-hour yoga class, great. If you're a mom and you're working, that's not maybe realistic. That's not maybe real. But what is the 1%? What is the 1%? What is the 10% that you can do? How can you show up in a little way to build a relationship with your body? Because the body tells us what is the next step. Our intuition lives in our body. It is our womb speaking through our desires. And if we don't have that relationship of tending to our intuition and our body and our energetic spiritual self, we will not be able to receive those messages. The spirit is always guiding us through our intuition, through our desires. But if we don't make space to feel our intuition, to feel our desires, to ask ourselves what we really want, to have the mind clear and calm as we breathe and move, or find ourselves in nature, we will not be able to hear this constant guidance of wisdom that is moving through us in every moment. You don't need anything more than you have. You have everything you need. You have everything you need right here, right now. No one can sell you anything that you need. You have it all here, but we can only gain access to it. It is like the treasure chest that is like right beyond our fingertips until we take that 1% effort of every day showing up to the question, how can I serve my body today? How can I serve my body? Which really ends up being, how can I serve my emotional, energetic, physical, and spiritual body? And the physical body is an access point to all of those other bodies. This is one of the foundational elements of yoga philosophy when we talk about the koshas, that the body, the physical body, it is the most gross, dense, gross as in like dense and 3D of all of those bodies, the emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, and yet it contains all of them. This is where this whole thing happened. We chose this body for a reason. This is where our truth lives. This is where spirit lives. This is where awakening lives. This is where our knowing lives. This is where our gifts live. So if we're not tending to that temple, if we're putting that third on the list, last on the list, if we're not even considering that, there's really no way to access the type of deep, meaningful, soul fulfilling sex, relationships, soul work that we desire. So that is it. And I want, if this speaks to you and you're like, yes, I know that I am that woman. I know I'm here for a big purpose. I know I'm in transition and I am ready to blossom. I am ready to up-level, step into the next level of my truth and experience. I want to let you know I'm here. I specifically work with high-achieving spiritual women who are ready to ditch the hyper-masculine hustle and to step in to the truth of their feminine energy being the most efficient, the most effective path to abundance in all areas of our life. This is the awakening of the divine feminine. It's not, some like woo-woo goddess ritual. I love that shit. You probably do too. But it is actually very grounded and very workable within the 5 pillars of my body, mind, freedom methodology, the embodied woman blueprint. This is what I do with women. This is what I've done with women for the last 16 years. It is my service and joy. It is my gift. And I love it. I love to see women to go from depleted and exhausted or super highly disciplined into a space of flow and freedom and sexuality and sensuality and truth, and then seeing all that blows up from there, seeing all the abundance that comes from there, all the money that comes from there, all the deepening of their partnerships that come from there, all of the deepening of their harmony, their children that come from there, with their bosses, with their careers that comes from there. And yeah, it's my pleasure. So feel free to reach out. I invite you to reach out, DM me, connect with me, because this is what we are here to do. This is the secret to the new way. And it is moving. The divine feminine can only be rebirthed through the bodies of women on this planet. Like, yes, she's here in the form of Gaia, our earth. Yes, she is, constantly transmitting through nature. And it is through the bodies of women that we are making that real into our systems. And we can only do it through ourselves. And fortunately, even though it's not always the easy path or the path, most trodden, as trailblazers, as change makers, as cycle breakers, there is a path that is, there's a structure in the 5 pillars, and fortunately it breeds joy along the way. So it pays dividends. Our growth process pays dividends. We don't have to just work at it for 10 years before we get the gold. We start feeling better immediately. So if you're ready to feel better immediately in your full, intense life with all the responsibilities and all the to-do lists and all of that, and you're finding it challenging to really step in to the truth of feeling good in your body, of tending yourself, of creating healthy boundaries that stop you from overgiving and overextending, then reach out, because I would love to support you. All right, loves. Thank you.